Wow, it's hot today. This is the picture I'm working on at the moment. In the photograph that I'm using as reference, you couldn't see any reflection, it's all ripples. Obviously a windy day or it was a breeze, so it really wasn't that interesting. So in the blocking, this is the blocking stage here, it's just had one coat of paint, it's totally dry. I'm working today on these areas here, but I haven't touched this bit yet. This is what I'm going to show you. So I've just added a little bit more reflection of the trees and the hillside in particular above. You've got some sky reflection that I've put in here, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to turn what looks like a blocked in painting into something that looks a little bit more like a river. So shall we get started? Why not? Let's go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave some of the blue areas where clearly it's ripples. I'll leave some of those in. Just really from about this point here we need to have a little bit more obvious reflection of the sky and the trees. So what I think I'm going to do is just work on the darker areas in the furthest point there and then work our way forward. Now that area at the back can be quite flat. Don't really need any detail in that. So all I'm going to do is try and mimic the colour above, but with perhaps just the slightest warmer tint. I mean, that there is not far off. And I think that would be quite a smooth colour there. Don't need any real detail in there, just as we're coming to this weir that is there. And then as we move down into the darker areas here, I think we can use a different brush because there's a little bit of texture in it. You can see a little bit more going on. It's going to be a bit more of a glaze, so I'm mixing that with some liquid fine detail. Now, one of the things I will say, I'm trying to darken this slightly. We've still got ripples on the water. It's not perfectly smooth. It's not an exact copy of what we can see above. There is definitely some movement, I would say, especially considering it was a ripply day anyway, or a windy day. A ripply day, is there such thing as a ripply day? There is now. Now, one of the things I would say, if you are going to darken water, like I am here, probably best to err on the warmer side. So rather than trying to mix the perfect colour, generally the reflection is slightly darker than what's above, and more often than not all the time, but more often than not, slightly warmer as well. And I guess that has something to do with the river bed. Don't really know, but it is. So just bear that in mind. Okay, so now I'm going to work on the sky reflection. Now the sky reflection is a little bit different. Usually obviously we've got a lot more detail that we're reflecting above. Now in the sky it tends to be much smoother. We've still got the ripples on there, but I think it just needs to be a little bit less detailed perhaps than this. So I'm just going to mix up a colour now, and I'm going to probably do the lightest areas first. So basically speaking, the cloud reflection. So I'm still going to be doing these, I'm going to be doing these sideways brush marks. I probably still will. Just added a touch of orange there just to really pick out these lighter points. usually nearer the top of the cloud, obviously, where the sun is catching it. Just now heading back to the tree and texture series just to break up really that area of blue there. Don't want it quite that solid. So what I think we'll do first of all is I'm going to just define this little weir here, and then we're going to start moving down into this area. So we can change brush now to something a bit smaller. Now, some of you may have seen me do this bit before. This is now where we start to integrate the reflection of the hillside with the reflection of the water. So all I'm going to do is get in some of these areas of ripple from the darker reflection. We're going to bring that into this lighter reflection. Now I think we've gone a little bit too dark there. So as we're moving over to the right hand side now, I'm just going to start to just darken it, just gently, not too much. Okay, so now we've brought the dark into the light, what we need to do now is bring the light into the dark. So we just need to mix up some sky reflection colour. Now, for those of you that are very observant, you'll see that I've moved onto a rigger brush. And now, rigger brush is good for getting nice, long, skinny lines. You can really load the brush up with paint, which is great, and it allows you just to get a really tight. Can you see how skinny those lines are? So I would always recommend a brush like this, a rigger brush, for getting these details. Okay, so we've integrated the light into the dark and the dark into the light. What we now need to do is make sure we've got these ripples on the sky reflection here. First of all, I'm going to go in with a lighter colour, and then we'll introduce the sky blue reflection in there. So let's just start up here with this lighter colour. Same technique, just short horizontal lines. Make sure the paint is thinned, so you need to use thinner, or liquid might work okay as well, but I just thin the paint out. So it's sort of quite watery. It's got more of that milk consistency or ink consistency that you've heard me mention in the past. Now I guess it's sort of depending upon which direction the wind is coming from or the flow of the river. Sometimes those ripples aren't always horizontal, certainly not as you come nearer to the front of the painting or to the nearer part of that water there. Sometimes they'll slope in a slightly different direction, like I think I'm going to do here. We'll see how it looks. Also, it's worth noting that the nearer to the front you get, the bigger, of course, those ripples can be as well. So you can be a little bit less precise with your brush strokes. Moving on to the darker blue now, and as we did with the lighter, the cloud reflection, just going to continue putting in these darker areas. Okay, so that's most of the ripples now finished. I'm just going to work up here where we've got just some lighter ripples just below that weir there, and then there are a few more just above. So let's now mix up a paint for that. I'm going to use this is a coma brush, and that's a good brush for getting really small groups of little flecks of light that we have over here. Okay, so one last thing I'm going to do, which you tend to get on water, is you tend to get just these tiny little blips of light that are just glinting off the surface, and they can just be tiny little dots, and it could be, you know, just a stick in the water or something that's just disturbed the surface there, that's making light glint off it. It could be anything, but just really small little areas. And I'm using a rigger brush again, just trying to get the tiniest little blips of light. Okay, that should do with the water. That for me is finished. Now that's done, I can get working on the rest of it. It hasn't taken that long. It's taken maybe a couple of hours for me from start to finish. So it's just a very simple and effective way of doing water, especially that water that's a little bit ripply. I find that a little bit quicker to do than the water that is very still, that has a glass-like reflection. Hi everybody, hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already, and well, I guess I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.